Foreign policy cooperation between member states from the establishment of the community in 1957, when member states negotiated as a bloc in international trade negotiations under the EU's common commercial policy. Steps for a more wide-ranging coordination in foreign relations began in 1970 with the establishment of European Political Cooperation, which created an informal consultation process between member states with the aim of forming common foreign policies. In 1987, the European Political Cooperation was introduced on a formal basis by the Single European Act. EPC was renamed as the Common Foreign and Security Policy (CFSP) by the Maastricht Treaty. Josep Borrell, High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. The aims of the CFSP are to promote both the EU's own interests and those of the international community as a whole, including the furtherance of international cooperation, respect for human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. The CFSP requires unanimity among the member states on the appropriate policy to follow on any particular issue. The unanimity in difficult issues treated under the CFSP sometimes lead to disagreements, such as those which occurred over the war in Iraq. The coordinator and representative of the CFSP within the EU is the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, who speaks on behalf of the EU in foreign policy and defense matters and has the task of articulating the positions expressed by the member states on these fields of policy into a common alignment. The High Representative heads up the European External Action Service, EEAS, a unique EU department that has been officially implemented and operational since 1 December 2010, on the occasion of the first anniversary of the entry into force of the Treaty of Lisbon. The EEAS will serve as a foreign ministry and diplomatic corps for the European Union. The EU participates in all G7 and G20 summits. G20 Summit in Osaka, Japan, 2019. Besides the emerging international policy of the European Union, the international influence of the EU is also felt through enlargement. The perceived benefits of becoming a member of the EU act as an incentive for both political and economic reform in states wishing to fulfill the EU's accession criteria and are considered an important factor contributing to the reform of European formerly communist countries. This influence on the internal affairs of other countries is generally referred to as soft power as opposed to military hard power. Security and Defense Common Security and Defense Policy in Berlin Plus Agreement of the 27 EU member states, 21, shown purple, are also members of NATO. Other colors, EU only, blue, and NATO only, orange, including 4 NATO members that are EU applicants: Albania, Montenegro, Turkey, and North Macedonia. The predecessors of the European Union were not devised as a military alliance, because NATO was largely seen as appropriate and sufficient for defense purposes. 21 EU members are members of NATO, while the remaining member states follow policies of neutrality. The Western European Union, a military alliance with a mutual defense clause, was disbanded in 2010 as its role had been transferred to the EU. Since the withdrawal of the United Kingdom, France is the only member officially recognized as a nuclear weapon state and the sole holder of a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. France and Italy are also the only EU countries that have power projection capabilities outside of Europe. Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, and Belgium participate in NATO nuclear sharing. Most EU member states opposed the nuclear weapon ban treaty. Following the Kosovo War in 1999, the European Council agreed that the Union must have the capacity for autonomous action, backed by credible military forces, the means to decide to use them, and the readiness to do so, in order to respond to international crises without prejudice to actions by NATO. To that end, a number of efforts were made to increase the EU's military capability, notably the Helsinki Headline Goal process. After much discussion, the most concrete result was the EU Battlegroups initiative, each of which is planned to be able to deploy quickly about 1,500 personnel. The coat of arms of the European Union Military Staff, EUMS. The arms include Europe's crown of 12 golden stars, an anchor, wings and 2 crossed swords. EU forces have been deployed on peacekeeping missions, from Middle and Northern Africa to the Western Balkans and Western Asia. EU military operations are supported by a number of bodies, including the European Defence Agency, European Union Satellite Centre and the European Union Military Staff. The European Union Military Staff is the highest military institution of the European Union, established within the framework of the European Council, and follows on from the decisions of the Helsinki European Council, 10-11 December 1999, which called for the establishment of permanent political military institutions. The European Union Military Staff is under the authority of the High Representative of the Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and the Political and Security Committee. It directs all military activities in the EU context, including planning and conducting military missions and operations in the framework of the Common Security and Defense Policy and the development of military capabilities, and provides the Political and Security Committee with military advice and recommendations on military issues. Frontex is an agency of the EU, established to manage the cooperation between national border guards securing its external borders. It aims to detect and stop illegal immigration, human trafficking and terrorist infiltration. In 2015, the European Commission presented its proposal for a new European Border and Coast Guard agency having a stronger role and mandate along with national authorities for border management. In an EU consisting of 27 members, substantial security and defense cooperation is increasingly relying on collaboration among all member states. Humanitarian Aid Directorate General for European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations. The European Commission's Humanitarian Aid and Civil Protection Department, or ECHO, provides humanitarian aid from the EU to developing countries. In 2012, its budget amounted to $874 million. 51% of the budget went to Africa and 20% to Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean and Pacific, and 20% to the Middle East and Mediterranean. Humanitarian aid is financed directly by the budget, 70%, as part of the financial instruments for external action, and also by the European Development Fund, 30%. The EU's external action financing is divided into geographic instruments and thematic instruments. The geographic instruments provide aid through the Development Cooperation Instrument, DCI, $16.9 billion, 2007-2013, which must spend 95% of its budget on official development assistance, ODA, and from the European Neighbourhood and Partnership Instrument, ENPI, which contains some relevant programs. The European Development Fund, EDF, $22.7 billion for the period 2008-2013 and $30.5 billion for the period 2014-2020 is made up of voluntary contributions by member states, but there is pressure to merge the EDF into the budget financed instruments to encourage increased contributions to match the 0.7% target and allow the European Parliament greater oversight. In 2016, the average among EU countries was 0.4% and 5 had met or exceeded the 0.7% target. Denmark, Germany, Luxembourg, Sweden and the United Kingdom. If considered collectively, EU member states are the largest contributor of foreign aid in the world.